There has been over 1 million layoffs in the United States. The biggest group affected by these layoffs are women.
I think it's really important that people don't associate their personal value with a company. Job titles don't actually define what a job is and what you do day to day.
Job security is not your ability to retain the current job that you have. Job security is, can you land the next job?
There are things in your control and things that are not in your control. This is one of those things that is not in your control.
Hi, everyone. Every time I talk to Helane, we go deep in so many different topics because we have so much in common. And so excited to be here with all of you. Just talking about such a current big topic right now, which is layoffs. And it's heavy. It's heavy. So we're going to try to bring this conversation as much lightness as possible, because the last thing you need is one more heavy rock to carry on your back. I'm here catching up with my friend Helane, which we met while we were both at Microsoft, from our amazing tech background, which I think we both have amazing things to say about the Microsoft culture. Like, I really did enjoy my time there. Nothing is perfect, right? But I think that it was really good. But one of the biggest assets is that I got to meet you.
Same.
And I have to tell people how we met. So you did the strength. So I'm a Strengths Finders coach since 2019, and Helane was brought in to do Strengths Finders training for the department I was at. So it was like love at first sight. That's that's how I want to.
Maybe for you, I was
Yeah.
teaching and you were in the audience, so I was a little nervous having you in my audience, but it was awesome, and I loved being able to also reference things to you and have you compliment me.
Yeah. No, you're amazing. And we have opposite strengths. So, and that's great because your communication's high. My communication's number 28. And I don't know if I ever told you that my
I don't
communication is
know.
very low.
No.
Yeah. So I have high relator. So that's what I use to connect with people. So if I have a good relationship with you, it's over. I can't stop talking. You're gonna hear all about it.
Well, I'm all in for that. I have 7 of my top 10 in relationship oriented, and I'm sure Relator is one of those in there.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. Well, thank you so much, Helane, for being here and being in one of our episodes for Coffee and Coaching. And you are one of the coaches that I've had so many amazing relationship conversations, work conversations, life conversations with, just and so insightful. And I always leave like, oh my God, we should have totally recorded this moment. And I'm glad that you're here so we can talk about this topic that is so real to so many Americans and people everywhere, you know?
I mean, it's every day I hear from somebody or see somebody who's, in a new job search, new career, transition of some sort. So yeah, it's very prevalent right now.
I love it. I love it. And for me, I don't just see it every day. I experienced it throughout 20 years in corporate America, heavily during the last 15, that I continuously see things going. And I wanted to start today's episode, and I'm going to ask you a lot of questions because I know that you have lived it from so many angles, but I do want to start with some stats today's conversation because I think it's so crucial and so important to talk about what's happening in today's market. So there has been over 1 million layoffs between federal workers and tech workers in the United States. There's layoffs going on in the entire world at the moment, but definitely very prominent to what's happening in the United States right now. And I think that one of the things that a couple of the facts that I want to bring up is that the biggest group affected by these layoffs are women, surprisingly enough, and hurtful enough, because
Yeah.
we are responsible to care for our families in a market and in a place where one income household does no longer serve us with the price of everything. So that is, I think, a very important thing. And the other piece is that unemployment is at 4%. So a lot of people are like, well, there's a discrepancy. We're seeing all these layoffs. Unemployment's at an all-time low. So what's really happening? And some of the research that we have seen here at HIK Trainings is that on average, last year and before, it typically take people 8 to 10 weeks to find a new job. But now it's taking people 6 months to be able to find a new job. And in many cases, a lateral move is not even enough. They are like, hey, I need to make an income. So it ends up being like a quote unquote step down, which I have different perspectives of that. But I think that it is just such a different real market. And I want your take on it and your thoughts on what's happening, especially us coming from the tech environment.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that, like you said, it takes two incomes or multiple income sources, however that might look. And I think people are, we always talk about the employer market versus the employee, right? And I think for many years during COVID, it was an employee market. We were all able to say, hey, I want this job and want this pay. And I think we're flip flopped right now, right? Which is also just how the world works and how time works. And we're now in that kind of, the employer says, well, this is what we can offer. And you, as the employee, have to say, yes or no, right? There's very little negotiation. It's just the way it is right now. So yeah, I see exactly the same thing. I see people that really just need to have a job, whether they're raising children, just the cost of living is just so much higher in general, even as a single person, right? To be able to afford to live alone, never mind having kids, family, etc. I think it's just you have to have the mindset of, you're willing to, if you do want to work for someone versus work for yourself. Well, I know we'll talk a little bit in the,
Yes.
later on about like a combo of what that looks like. But if you are, in that situation where you do want to work for an employer, I think, for now, the mindset has to be like, I want to find something that I'm going to enjoy, that I do
Yes.
add value to, and not so much focus on what that title is or what that range is. As long as it's a fair pay, then I think we have to kind of change our mindset. And again, things are going to change again in the future, right? It's kind of a moment in time and a time that we just have to kind of keep walking through.
Yes. Thank you so much for that because like when we do our programs here, we really do focus on what is the silver lining of all of this because we talked about this unfairness that has happened to us, an unfair rejection with layoffs, right? Like I didn't see this coming. Some people are very loyal to their jobs and in many cases, some companies are like coming up with performance, like last minute performance evaluations and last minute it's like, yeah, you haven't been that good for the last 3 years. And you're like, wait, hold up. You just telling me this for the first time today. And it is all part of creating a record so they can justify some of their decisions. So let's talk a little bit about your perspective on a layoff done the right way and a layoff done the wrong way. And both of them are still suck,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. But like there's been people that have come through our program, Layoff to Clarity, that have said, I got a package, I'm leaving in 3 months. And why? Well, these are the reasons why. Company related, cost related, like all these real things. And then there's what are your perspective on those versus when it's like a little bit more unfair?
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much to unpack. And I can say from personal experience, I have experienced both. I have
Yes.
coached people through both. Both are happening right now.
Mhm.
I think the first thing I start with is, again, mindset. Right. There are things in your control and things that are not in your control. Right. This is one of those things that is not in your control. So when I talk with people, especially people young in career, and you and I talked about working at Microsoft. I worked there for 14 years. And yes, I
Yeah.
mean, to me, my number one asset is the lifelong friends that I will meet
Yes.
and get to collaborate with my whole life. But it is very easy in those types of cultures, whether it's Microsoft, Amazon, like these big tech companies that offer so much and give so much, to get sucked in, right? To kind
Yes.
of, I call it drinking the Kool-Aid, where your life becomes about the company.
Yep.
And, I think that there are pieces and parts of that where you should be all in, like enjoy it, take advantage of everything that the company has to offer. Meet all the people, do a great job, give to that company. But ultimately, I think it's really important that people don't associate their personal value with a
Mm,
company, right?
that is so big.
So I had a very long career at Microsoft, almost 14 years. And, when I did transition recently, I knew what my value was, right? I loved working there. There were great things. There were not so great things, as in every company. But
Yep.
I always focused on myself and my value, what I could bring, right? So I think whether you're new in career, whether you're not new in career, focus on yourself and what you bring, and just know that a company is in business to make business, right? And
Yes.
to drive revenue. And a lot of times they have to do things that really have nothing to do with you, but directly affect you, right? So
Yes.
I've seen many people crumble from having those situations happen, and then I've seen other people who are able to pick themselves up and march forward. It's never easy, like you said, it stinks both ways, right?
Yeah.
Whether it happens to you. Sometimes it stings more if it's one way versus the other. But I think it's having that mindset of knowing your value. And I also wanted to make a point to what you said too about like when you are searching and looking for another job. I always tell people job titles don't actually define what a job is and what you do day to day. They don't,
Preach. Please
right?
preach. If I
So,
had a penny for every time I've had to have this conversation, a coaching conversation, because we're so caught up on that title, and it's because of
yes.
other people's perception of what
And
that
the
title is.
description. Half
Yes.
the time I've taken jobs, and if you were to tell me, okay, of these 12 things or 18 things that were listed on this job description, how many of these do you do? I might be like 3. So I tell
Yes.
people, think about, especially if you're transitioning and in this difficult market, think about the characteristics of the type of job you
Yes.
want, right? Do you want a job where you're doing a repetitive task? Do you want a job that's very number oriented or detail oriented? Do you want a job that is different every day? That's me, right? I am a
Yes.
marketer. I'm creative. I want to be doing different things every day, right? So really make that list for yourself, or what are the characteristics of the type of job that you want? And that opens up a whole new door for you, right? So you might be in one industry now, but you have these characteristics that you can apply really to any industry. And then you build your talk track around that.
I love that we talk about mindset. We're on minute 13 of this podcast and we already moved to forward, right?
Yeah.
Like this is us right here. Like we don't let past define us. We're like, what are we doing next? What is next? And I just love what you just said about mindset and that job description because as we gonna move to the forward side of the section, yes, layoff happened. Yes, it sucked. Yes, the market is at an all-time high and it takes 6 months for you to land a job. Like let's move forward. And I want to tell you about like at least 3 things that I see are layoff to clarity cohort programs and some of the things that I see in common. So over the last three months, I've spoke to over 100 people about them being laid off. And it's a very shocking, sad conversation that again, we have to make it move forward. But there's a couple of things that I've noticed. It's like one, and let's talk about that LinkedIn, because you talk about the role and the title. And so LinkedIn, they build their LinkedIn profiles as a resume instead of the next job. So that is something I see happen a lot where someone's building a LinkedIn profile for the next job and hire a service. And believe me, some of our program participants come in and tell me, oh, someone was trying to charge me $6,000 from my LinkedIn or $20,000. And I'm sorry if this is someone's bread and butter, but I think it's completely wrong that to charge someone that is in need that amount of money. It's just insane. But in that case, it's like they build their resume space like with all their job descriptions, all the stuff that is already on their resume, and they put it on their LinkedIn. So a lot of the conversations that I actually just had a conversation today with a pivot participant, and I was like, hey, like your LinkedIn should reflect the job you're trying to go for, not the job you just had. Have them ask you for your resume. Tease them a little bit. Like give them information about the next job and don't put so much of your job description in there so they want to get your resume. Because if you give them your resume ahead of time, why will they ask you to send them a copy? Why will they engage with you? So that's one. The other one is job description part. A lot of the people that have been laid off, especially women, will not apply to the jobs because they haven't done 100% of what the job description says. I know you've seen this. It's like, and I'm like, but it's typically women that do this. And I'm like, and I don't see that a lot with our counterparts, male counterparts. And I'm like, well, like, how much of it have you done? And they're like, 70%. And then I start asking questions about the other 30%. It's like, oh, yeah, I did that, but it was just one time in one project. But you did it. It's like, yeah, we're going to put that in there, right? So a lot of imposter syndrome, I feel. But I want your
Yeah.
opinion on the second one before I go on the third.
On the second, okay. The first on the LinkedIn, just my philosophy
Yeah.
on LinkedIn with the profile, et cetera, and overarching is it should be authentic.
Yes.
It should be who you are. Because no matter what you put on in writing, right? If you don't connect with that hiring manager or that company, or if they don't see your value, it's not the right fit, right?
No,
So it really needs
no.
to be authentic to have joy in what you're doing, no matter what level it is, right?
Yes.
So I would just say that because I have a lot of discussions around that too. Secondly, fully agree, right? There's a lot of things when it comes to women versus our male counterparts, one being, right, that whole concept of, oh, I've only done 70%, the other being of asking for what you're worth, right? And again, that's a
Mm.
whole nother topic, right? Women
Yes, it
tend
is.
to, when we talk about raises or incremental bonuses and things like that, women tend to just accept what's given to them versus men will ask, at least, right? Whether that this climate right now will afford that, I don't know so much, but it can never hurt to ask. So what's interesting for me, like I think about, I feel really fortunate in terms of my childhood. My dad always taught me when I was younger, I would tell him, well, I can't get into that class. I don't get to register in college until, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And he's like, well, change your time. I can't change my time, Dad. It's done by social security number, right? And I said, and there's guards. Get to know the guards. Find a guard that you become friends with and let that guard help you get in early, right? So I was, raised with there's always a way. There's
Yes.
always a way around. So I think that I would look at the 70% as I've done it, or the 30% of I can do this, right? And what is your story around this, right? And usually that 30%, by the way, like you just said, somehow has been interwoven into the things you've already done. Right. You
Yes.
just haven't recognized it. And I think that's really important too. You probably wind up talking to your clients and they don't even realize the things that they have done. So I think it's so important that it's great that they're talking to you. I think talking to peers, like getting their real life feedback on or their perception of working with you, what they saw, what they didn't, because a lot of times we don't see things in ourselves that other people do. I used to tell people, and I think you may have done something similar, send somebody an email and say, send 3 words back that you think of when you think of my work style. And it always surprised me.
Oh, yeah.
Just a simple, because sometimes people don't have time to write up a whole thing, right? But a simple, like, figure out a question and ask somebody to send you 3 words back, right? It just gives you another way to think about things that you might have thought about, not have thought about for yourself.
Yeah, and your blind spots, right? Like the things that
Yes,
you are that people don't know and how how it shows up for you. And I think
totally.
that's huge. I love this. I love this. I can talk about this forever. Number 3, and this one I know we're gonna go deep on because it's so real. Old beliefs.
Hmm.
Old beliefs. That one goes into perceptions, and I love what your dad did because he just raised a trailblazer, right? There's a way. You need to find that way, right? But old beliefs of what job security is. So I've encountered a lot of people that had the government job, and it's like this is the secure thing, and the government job, and the secure thing, and now the carpet has been removed, and it's like this shouldn't be the way, but it's like it's the way many people that already have employments at will live on a regular basis. So now it's happening to them, and it's like, so how is the game played? Old beliefs on even words, right? Like when I work with government or military, they say a lot of like words like civilian. And I'm like, when you say that in an interview, you're saying that you are not ready for the
Right,
next. Yeah.
right.
So that's one. And then the other ones on that old beliefs is relationships with money get in the way, or like the why I'm here get in the way. So I have people that are unwilling to relocate. And when you go, and again, I have a daughter and share custody of my daughter, so I have, I can't move
You have no
for
choice. Yeah.
obvious reasons. Yeah. But there's a lot of people it's like that don't have those situations. And until we start coaching and I start pushing, it's like one person's like, "Oh, I always wanted to move to Mexico. What's stopping you now?" It's like, "Oh, well, I need to get a job here." I'm like, "Well, can you get a remote job?" "Oh, yeah, I'm already applying to remote jobs." And I'm like, "Okay." So now I know that I need to unfold some kind of old belief system. And this is a client that is now sitting in Mexico, working remote in a more affordable lifestyle. And the title changed, but his life is better. So, like, all of these beliefs that get put in our heads either by media, jobs, old bosses, people that we go, I'm going to show you. And then, like, suddenly we're trapped in this life that is not ours.
Yeah, or we call them the golden handcuffs, right? You get in somewhere. Yeah.
Yes.
And
I was a part of them.
yes, yeah, I probably hate to admit it, but I probably was also, right? And that comfort, we always talk about like how comfortable you are in your job. Gosh, there is so much to talk about there.
Yes.
I think, first of all, the world is different now. I've had, a beautiful career. I'm a little bit on the tail end of what my, a formal career. But with that said, I still want to work. I still want to enjoy contributing. I saw when we talk about like folks that maybe are more senior, and you could be senior whether it's in age, whether it's in title, right? I saw a meme the other day that said something like the average length of a person that stays at a company is now about 4 years. Years
Yeah.
ago, right, we used to stay at those companies for 10, 20 years, right?
Yes.
And the meme went on to say, why wouldn't you hire those senior people, right, who have the experience and can start from day one,
Wow.
right? So it's a different perspective. We also obviously we want to make sure we're supporting our youth and our younger people that are
Yes.
coming up through the ranks, right? And I think there is room for everyone, but I think we're seeing some ageism in the market
Yes.
too, right? Those are
Yes.
old beliefs. And it's interesting, someone said to me, yeah, when you're young, you don't have enough experience, and when you're older, you have too much experience or you cost too much, right?
Yes.
So it's like working through that. What does that look like? Those are all old beliefs too, right?
Yes.
One of the things I talk about, and I think this is on our to-do list of things to talk about, is just mentorship. I always tell
Yes.
people, have a mentor that is younger than you, right?
Oh my God, yes.
I got to work in the Microsoft store with 18-year-olds who were talking to customers and doing things that I never thought about. It just isn't the way I came up in this environment. Yet I'm a marketing person, a media person, right? But they had such a different perspective. So again, mindset, right? And
Yes.
breaking down those old norms and being willing to say it used to look like this and now it looks like this. And I think it's actually the realization too. Like
Yes.
identify that, right?
I love
Identify
that.
those things that you thought it was this way and it's not this way anymore. What does that look like or feel like to you?
I wanna talk about ageism
Yeah.
because it's real, and it's affecting every gender, every race, everybody in this country. I had a client, very senior, 20 years of experience, amazing resume. He's in the AI product management space. Could you imagine an AI product manager with actual experience? How crazy. And he had to cut his resume in half, and he started getting more calls. And to me, that alone is like, this is insane. Because especially in the area that we're in, I think that having some experience with multi-language models, I think it will be very valuable, and product management will be very valuable because there's a lot of people creating a lot of different AI things with no product management experience, and you bring all of this to the table. So I think ageism is a twofold problem. It's the problem of the hiring team and hiring management, and it's a problem of the person applying for the job. Because I have some people that is like, they're gonna take they have to take me as I am, so I come with all this wealth of experience, and I'm gonna put even the job I did in college as a waiter is gonna go in there.
I have seen a lot of those. It's like it hurts people to take off the
Yes,
those
yes,
jobs, yeah.
yes, and I'm like, "No, they don't need it." And it also, like, when you're applying to a particular job, let's say that you're in product management and you want to apply to this video gaming job, and in this product management role, you did a half video game, half, something else. Don't be afraid to create a resume for that job, highlighting the gaming stuff you did. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, what about all the stuff I did? Is it relevant to the job that you're applying to? All that stuff can be added in the interview, right? Like you can add that into the interview afterwards. So no, this is really the ageism piece is a very sensitive topic to me. And on that, like I have a lot of young mentors because especially when I got into the social media space, if you would have seen HIK training this time last year, it would have been like, where are you? You're nowhere, right? My young mentor and now our head of marketing, Kate, she is all about social media. She bleeds, leaves social media, eats social media, everything social media. And because of her, HIK trainings is like taking off and getting to places that wasn't there before. And also she has different strengths than me. And so is my sister, who's my mentor when it comes to relationships, right? Because I'm not a relationship builder. She's like you. She has like 8 relationship building strengths. So we're also strength finders coaches. So we can talk about this all day, every day. But I do want to talk about what happens afterwards a little bit. What have you seen for people that have been able to land on their feet faster than others? I'm afraid to say that word because it's not fast right now,
Yeah,
but at
nothing
least
is
a little
fast.
bit. No.
Yeah, and I think there's some statistics out there about like based on how much money you've made, right? It takes X number of months based on every $10,000 or 100,000 or whatever that number is. But I just want to make one comment too about the resume thing. I think I have a little bit of a different philosophy about the resumes. I see a lot of people changing their resume constantly for a particular job.
Mm,
I don't believe in that. I believe more in you have a resume, right? You might tweak it here and there a little bit, but I think your core value and who you are and what you're looking for should be pretty much being able to be confirmed in that one resume. What I
yeah.
do always recommend to people, and I think you and I have talked about this, another way of like being able to share more, right? If you because I think when you do have a lot of experience, you're excited about
Yes.
all the experience you have, right? So you want to share it. And that's why these resumes wind up like 20, 30 pages, right? And simplicity right now is key, right? HR
Mm,
teams are overwhelmed with people that are sending in resumes. So simplicity is key and knowing those key terms. But one of the things I always recommend to people is a personal walking deck. And I don't know if we've ever talked about that, but
mm,
I've always okay. So a personal walking deck is like 5 slides. It is who you are personally. So I'm an auntie. I help raise my 2 twin nephews. I have pictures of them and I'm a baker and I'm originally from New York and I've got pictures. It's a photo album of me personally, right? And my Clifton Strengths certificate is on there, like things that are about me personally. So that's one side. The next slide are the characteristics of the job I'm looking for. Right? What are the types of jobs I'm looking for? I have
mm.
another slide with 6, 7 recommendations from people why they would hire me. Right. And then I might have one more slide, depending upon like where I'm at in the interview process for like my idea of what a 30, 60, 90 could look like if I got this job and a why hire me slide. Right. So that's another tool or asset that you can use to set yourself apart and to also get that message across without having to land it all in your resume. And
Yes.
it opens a different door. If you get the opportunity to know either who the hiring manager is or somebody within the organization, if you get to that point, it's a great way to send before an interview, right? To say, here's a little bit about me, or after an interview. And what it does is, like you and I talked about having different strengths. By the way, not everyone's a good interviewee, and there are many not
Yes.
so great interviewers, right? So,
Yes.
especially when you do add that personal side in, sometimes it gives one of those two people an opportunity to connect in a different manner
Yes.
than just on the job front. I know I just took my last job and I just connected with my manager immediately. And that for me was just as important as what the job
Yes.
description was. So I'll just add that in terms of like the resume and having like this live personal walking deck as something else as another, nugget that you can send during the process.
I love it. And I want we have comments that I'm going to read to you. So that's
Oh,
why I'm
okay, yeah.
looking on this side.
Yeah.
But I do want to say love it. Love it because you just brought up something that is something that I encounter. Because someone just paid someone to get their LinkedIn done. And then I come here and I'm like, your LinkedIn should reflect the future job you're about to get, not the present. And they're like, that's not what the last person that I hired said. So I immediately go into yes, everybody has a different approach on
Perspective, yeah.
how to do this, right? But if I were to listen to someone on how to do my LinkedIn or how to do my resume, my question would be, okay, you did it. Are you hiring someone that is helping other people get jobs, right? When was the last time you helped someone to get a job? When was the last time that you did this and that? Or in your case, like, did that help you land your next job, right? And that's something that we're going to talk about. But I think that for my perspective, I have a little bit of a different perspective on the resume. But similar. I always tell people don't up because it's impossible. I always say in this market, you should be applying to 5 to 10 jobs a day, Monday to Friday.
Minimum.
Period. Minimum,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
when I say this, like, I'm like, no, 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 it's real. So if I ask you to create a new resume for every job that you're applying to in this market, 5 to 10 times a day, how, like, you're going to get burned out.
Yeah.
So I always say, find your three verticals of jobs that you're looking for. So let's pretend I'm looking for a job. Let's say I say gaming, writing, or marketing, product coaching, right? 4 verticals. I'll have a resume for each vertical. And then I will find jobs in these verticals and constantly apply for those verticals. But I will have a different version, simple to your point, but depending on the layers that you want to look for different jobs. Because I think that staying stuck in one vertical might not help you find a job faster. But it's similar, but I just give that extra. But at the same time, I agree with you. Like, I could not imagine creating 5 to 10 resumes from scratch each day.
Yeah, and it goes to what we talked about earlier, right? If you know the characteristics of the type of job you want and you have your general skill set,
Yes.
right? It's how do you then talk track that in a different industry, right?
Yes.
So I've done marketing mostly in tech, but
Yes.
I had a break. I had a transition where I left tech for a while. I was an entrepreneur for a while, but then I went to work for a giant grocery market chain. I had no grocery experience, but I had people skills, I had marketing, I was an educator, right? And I started in their marketing department and became an educator for them, right? So it's the
No,
skills that transfer, right?
I
So
just
it's
love it.
it's how do you talk? I think that's the other thing, right? I've coached a lot of people lately on you have to practice your talk track. You have to know how to talk about where you were, where you want to go. I go back to authenticity, right?
Yes.
It's, you and I today, like we couldn't connect last night. We were going to just touch base, right, on how we were going to
Yes.
talk, right? But this is as real as it gets. And people get nervous in high stress situations during interviews. I get that, right? But practice with your friends. Don't script it. Be
Yeah.
authentic, be honest. And I will say that in an interview also. I'll say, look, I can tell you that I did all my research. I know about your company. I know what your financials look like because I could go into AI and I can get all that. This is awesome. I want to talk to you about what the culture's like. What are you looking for? What is your work style? Do our work styles, right? I will be very upfront about that. Not everybody's comfortable doing that,
Yeah.
but I think it builds a different level of trust, right? At the end of the day, we're all people. And if you can get that personal connection, I think that's
Yes.
going to be that pivot point for you.
I just absolutely love it, and you right on point. Like when we said these are authentic coaches conversations, like it is. Like we practice nothing. We like texted a little bit last night, and we came here and jump right in. I want to bring up some things because I do agree with this comment from Jessica. Personal walking deck.
Yes.
Love this. And what
Okay.
I love about it is that it can be connected to your resume, right? Like you can put a QR code on your resume and take them to the walking deck instead of taking them to your LinkedIn because
Oh,
they
great
probably
idea. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they can probably access it. So I love it. I have another comment. A great point, Helene. Your value is not your role in your company. It's so much more centered on you as an expert in the skills that you bring beyond the title or company for which you belong to. That is so powerful. And I have this say that I always say, you're not your job. Like you're not your job. And I learned that just like you were 14 on Microsoft, I was 12 years in the company I was at before Microsoft. And I learned that the hard way because I just realized like I put so much value in the job that I wasn't valuing the people I was doing the job for, which is my family, my spouse, myself. And you're just pouring, pouring, pouring. But it's because there's this idea that my performance is linked to my value as a person.
Right. And look, it is not easy no matter how secure you are in who
Yeah.
you are and your value. And it's okay to be
Yeah.
sad or to feel shocked or to have those emotions.
Especially during layoff.
Yes,
Exactly.
but I think it also goes back to make when you are strong and convicted in what your values are, you are able to move forward. And we were going to talk a little bit about that too. And I think we're jumping all over, but I think
So
that's the
good.
intention, right? It's authentic.
Yes.
I
Yes.
was going to say, when I was going to transition and got let go, so many people tell you, first of all, there's a lot of noise, right? Everybody
There
has a
is.
different experience, like you're saying, right? One person tells you do your resume, one person tells, right? So I had a lot of people saying, take a moment, breathe, let it absorb. I was like, oh, that's okay, thank you. But that's not me, right?
No.
I had a business stood up in a week, right? So you have to know yourself,
Yes.
right? And you have to be open. The people that know you best are going to have lots of great advice, maybe some not so great advice, right? But
Mhm. Yeah.
I think it's knowing yourself and then taking the path that feels right to you. For me, I knew that like just sitting around and absorbing everything wasn't my thing. My
Yeah.
thing was like I wanted to execute and be in action and get out there and network and like we'll talk about all the things that come after that situation. But again, it goes back to the who are you? What are your core values? What is your talk track? And how do those things apply to all these different opportunities that are out there?
Yes. No, I love that everybody's gonna give you different advice because there is. And as coaches, when we encounter someone that has just went through a layoff or went through some kind of career change, we do as much as like what we do is to focus on the person. Like, I'm not gonna tell you what decision to make. I'm not gonna tell you which route to go, but we read into the emotions. Where are you at mentally, emotionally, and where are you in your life? Like, there's some, I know some people that are still figuring it out. It's like, I don't want to go back to corporate. I don't want to go back to work, right? And they just sit they're in that moment of reflection and looking back. I would like to talk a little bit about your experience being out there in the market recently
Yeah.
and celebrate the fact that you landed somewhere where you really love to be at. So do you wanna talk a little bit about that experience? I don't wanna
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got caught up. I was at Microsoft for 13 years, almost 14 years, and got caught up in the tech industry, what we're going through right now. And I'm not ready to not work in a corporate job yet. However, with that
Yeah.
said, I also one of the great things that I take away from that career was I became a Clifton Strengths coach. That's how I met you, right? So
Yes.
my side job within Microsoft, I was coaching for 5 years, and I got an opportunity to work across all different, parts of the organization. And I knew that that was a passion for me. And right. And because people would ask me, well, how are you doing your full-time job and also doing this? And I'm like, I carved the time out. I figure it out because I love it. So when this happened to me, I had already started thinking about what would my retirement career be?
Mm,
Because one day when I do retire, I don't ever see myself just doing nothing. But I
that's
was
me
like,
too.
yeah, my retirement career would be coaching, right? And I know you and I talked about like, let's make sure that we're in touch so that if you have something or I have something on either coast, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I would say, I stood up my company, but one of the things so I don't forget, because I think this is really, really important, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the rest of my experience. If you are in a corporate job and you have a passion for something or you have an idea for a business, if you don't have the money, if you don't have the plan yet, if you just know it's something in the future that you might want to do, start a business, form the business, create the shell. You don't have to dump a lot of money in, but get the framework of your business set up while you have your corporate job. You might not touch it for 20 years. You might touch it though in a year. Somebody may come to you and say, "Hey," right? So I think the one thing I would have done differently was I would have had that business set up because I knew I had already planned in my head that that was what I was going to do, but I didn't do the work to kind of set the formation of the company up. So I will just
Yeah.
say to anyone, start it, right? Especially if you have the corporate job and you've got that financial stability. It's a little bit harder when you are let go and maybe you're more concerned about finances and you don't want to put the
Oh,
money
yeah.
in at that time, right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that I got that point across because I think it's so important. And if you don't have something in mind, think about it. Like, what is it something you would love to do? And
Yes.
start a consulting business. You don't even have to know exactly what that's going to look like.
I wanna hone in on that because
Okay.
this is something I teach very and we talked about this before we both left Microsoft about how this was something that I believed on. Job security is not your ability to retain the current job that you have. Job security is, can you land the next job? And whether that next job is your side hustle waiting for you after you got let go, whether that other job is the next company you're going to get the job from, when you have a side hustle and you have a plan B and you have a little LLC that you don't know nothing about. Nobody needs to know. You don't need to go into your job and be like, hey, I have an LLC. Don't do what Carol did. I'm joking. But I think that some employers are okay with that. Microsoft was one of those places where a lot of people had a side podcast or they had like their own coaching consulting businesses. But like, it's important because you walk around differently when you know you have something to fall back on. And the only thing guaranteed is that disemployments are at will. And that at any point the economy goes back down, it goes back up, like something will happen again.
Yeah.
And you will be in this situation, this position. I've had people that got let go last year and then call me again today, say, I got let go again. And that will break someone's self esteem very heavily. So I always do, especially in the Layoff to Clarity program, I always try to find if you were to start a side hustle, what will it be based on your Ikigai model, based on what you love, based on what people say you're good at, based on what people will pay and what the world needs. what is it that is gonna help you create that side hustle? And for us, it found us, right? We love his strengths. We took the certification and suddenly we're like, oh my God, this is incredible. And we are natural born coaches. And for some people could be starting an Etsy store. I have one person that started their own book business, right? I had a little side hustle on publishing children's books that I love, right? So like you don't know what it is, and you might start small today and then
Yep.
next, it will become something you didn't even know about and like a hidden passion you didn't know you had. So I think we're saying here the same thing, which is like go for it. Go for it while you have the job. And I love that advice because it's so powerful.
And I think what we're talking about, so the other thing that I think is so important, and this also talks to what I did, right? And you and I talked about I have a lot of relationship oriented strengths. You don't, right? But relationships are critical, right? So
Yes.
whatever strength you use to build relationships, you still do it. And I think networking. So I think networking today is more important than it ever has been. And
Mm,
we all network differently, right? So everyone thinks that I'm this kind of person that can come into a room. You saw me in front of 200 people, no problem talking. I
incredible.
got it, right? But I go into a room of people I don't know during a meet and greet or a business networking, and I'm not that person. I'm shy. And I will try and find somebody I know so that I have a little bit of a comfort level, right? But I still force myself to do it. But I use my communication skills, whether it's getting to know somebody, through IMing with them and learning their stories, right? But I think all of these years, I've always taken the time. I think it's really important to know the people that you come into your life that you're either working with, networking with. Goes back to the personal thing of knowing something personal about them, what matters to them. I know your kiddos. I raised my nephews, right? Those are talking points for us to connect on at a personal level. But
Yes.
I think networking is so critical right now. So for me, when I, was in this transition period, I was like, okay, I've got to like reach out to my network. I will tell you, you learn a lot about who will truly be there, who can't be there, who wants to be there, who maybe can't. I think most people's intention always is to help, but at the end of the day, everybody really is running, right? And just
Yes.
trying to get to the next point.
Yeah.
So those relationships need to be rooted because
Yeah.
those are the people that you can call on. And you might have a mentor that you see once a year, right? There's different types of mentors, maybe once a month people,
Yep.
and then there's a once a year mentor that has like some golden, nugget that you need from every year. But those are the relationships you have to build, and those are the relationships I was able to call on after, right, this all happened to me. So I immediately went into that mode of, just I was honest. This is what happened to me. I'm open for help. I'm open for people to help guide me if you know of roles, right? So I put it out there, and I think that I made myself available too. I sat on a
Nice.
couple of panels, right, for some women's organizations and for some organizations that I had worked with in the past. So I didn't really stop. I just kept like moving on while I was looking for a job. But I think networking should be a plan. You should have a networking plan. What does that
Yes.
look like? Right. And again, some of us are more shy than others. Find an organization, right, that you feel comfortable at. Maybe they have a different type of format or you know somebody there and start to build that platform of networking. And that just goes for also individual people, that you encounter each day.
Yes, I love that. And I just have one last question before we go. But in that regard, I am very shy and introverted, and networking is a challenge for me. And the last couple of weeks, I just realized how I am just much better in person than I am virtually, and that I struggle. I'm awkward to start conversations like nobody's business. But like, it's just realized that I need to put myself out there and find in person events and literally go to Eventbrite. Look for your organizations, women organizations. In my case, I was just recently at a Latina event last week. Any organization that you have a click or even local tech organizations or entrepreneur meetups or co-working space has networking events all the time. But I do think that those people that have worked with you in the past that know your work ethic, that know how you work, and so letting them know, hey, just keep me posted if you hear of something out there, like that will make a huge difference. And know that the job you might get now might be the job for right now, or might be your long term job. Who knows? But us continuing to move forward and thinking about, I think the message I'm leaving with you today, Helene, is the world has changed and we need to
100%.
change with it. And looking for a job today is not looking for a job 10 days ago or even 10 years ago, right? Or 5 years ago. It's like it continues to change and evolve, and we need to continue to stay informed and try to look for new things. So many asks, is a walking deck the new cover letter?
That's a good question. I don't think so. Gosh, we need more time. Cover
Yes, we
letters
do.
also. I mean, it
I
could be,
have
but
a complicated relationship with cover letters.
I do. Yeah, I do too. I did a very basic cover letter.
Yeah.
I don't think a cover letter is going to make or break if you've got a good resume or you've got that contact internally to help
Yep.
advocate for you. But it's a good thought
I
because it can be
I
used
think
before or after.
yes, I think the cover letter after, I like the after. I think the cover letter is an age clocker. So I think a lot of people that it's like, I'm gonna bring this cover letter, it's gonna be formal, it's gonna be all this stuff. And I'm like, I can see ageism getting in the way of that because cover letters are kind of like fading away. The personal walking deck, I think is so cool and crucial. And it reminds me of creatives. When we have creatives that come here, I'm like, you need a portfolio. Where's your portfolio? What is
Right.
the information you're going to send to this person to know about your writing or your illustrations? And this one is more of like a personal one, and I just really love that insight. Okay, well,
And
I think
I'm going to add one thing to
yes.
when you have your personal walking deck. I did do a visual career journey, and I put the name of the company that I wanted to work for on that career journey deck when I sent it to them. And by the way, that is the company I work for now.
Oh my
So
god,
yes,
that's beautiful.
yeah,
Congratulations, Elaine. Awesome. No,
yes.
I love it because this is the kind of stuff, right? Like, is it a proven tactic? And in your case, it is a proven tactic. And I'm certainly gonna recommend it for everyone coming our way. So that's awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. We are obviously above time because I love talking to Helene, so it was gonna happen. But today was amazing, Helene. Thank you so much for being the coffee and coaching. Anything else you want to leave everyone with?
No, I mean, just like you said, the world is changing. We need to change with it. Be kind to yourself. Don't, you are not alone. It takes time. It's scary sometimes, right? And vulnerability sometimes is difficult for a lot of people, but call on people that, can support you.
Absolutely. Okay, everyone. See you in the next coffee and coaching. Thank you.